What if the most beloved father in television history was actually a mistake? For 14 seasons, Lorne Greene was the Rock of the Ponderosa. But hidden in the show's origins is a secret conflict that almost ended his career before it even began. You've seen every episode of Bonanza, but you missed the one pivotal moment that nearly turned a voice of doom into a Hollywood cast-off. To fully understand how close we came to losing Ben Cartwright, we have to travel back to the frozen radio booths of Ottawa, Canada, during the darkest, most terrifying days of the Second World War. Before he was the patriarch of America's most famous fictional ranch, Lorne Greene was known to an entire nation by a far more ominous title, the Voice of Canada, which quickly transformed into the Voice of Doom. Night after night, his booming, cavernous baritone delivered the grim news of battlefield losses, rising casualty counts, and the terrifying progression of the war in Europe. Greene's delivery was deliberately solemn. He firmly believed that it was a betrayal of the soldiers to read such tragic news with anything less than absolute, heavy-hearted gravity. This vocal training, forged in the crucible of real-world global catastrophe, gave him a commanding, almost supernatural gravitas. He was a man of intense discipline, even inventing a backward-running stopwatch during his radio days to ensure his broadcasts were timed to the exact second. When he spoke, people listened as if the sky itself were opening up. But when the war finally ended and Greene migrated south to Hollywood, the entertainment industry did not know what to do with a man whose voice carried the weight of a crumbling world. He was cast in Shakespearean plays like Othello and took minor television guest roles, but he was constantly searching for a character that could match the sheer scale of his presence. That opportunity finally arrived in 1959 when NBC and producer David Dort began conceptualizing a massive, risky project called Bonanza. It was designed to be something completely different from the gritty black and white shoot-'em-up westerns that dominated the airwaves at the time. Instead, it was supposed to be a sweeping, multi-generational family saga, filmed in glorious, expensive color to help parent company RCA sell their brand new color television sets. When David Dort spotted Lorne Greene on the set of Wagon Train, he was absolutely stunned. Greene was playing a guest character who had to dominate the legendary, notoriously difficult to intimidate actor Ward Bond. To Dort's amazement, Greene did not just hold his own. His booming voice and physical poise made Bond look weak and indecisive by comparison. Dort immediately knew he had found his Ben Cartwright. However, the pilot episode of Bonanza, titled A Rose for Lotta, was a creative disaster in the making. The script had been incredibly rushed, completed in just a couple of days while Dort was busy producing another series. As a result, the Cartwright family that viewers saw in that pilot was almost completely unrecognizable from the beloved family they would grow to adore. In the early scripts, the Cartwrights were not the warm, welcoming neighbors of Virginia City. They were written as hostile, isolated, highly aggressive land barons. If a stranger stepped onto the Ponderosa, the Cartwrights' first instinct was not to offer them shelter. It was to draw their guns and threaten to shoot them dead on sight. Ben Cartwright was not written as a wise, loving father who guided his sons with gentle strength. Instead, the original scripts painted him as a harsh, unyielding, dictatorial tyrant who ruled over his 3 grown sons with an iron fist. He was overbearing, aggressive, and deeply unlikable. But wait, there is a shocking twist to this story that the network tried to bury for decades. What if I told you that the legendary Cartwright family we know today was actually slated for execution? Behind the scenes, NBC was in an absolute panic over abysmal ratings. They didn't just want to cancel the show. They actively drafted plans to completely kill off Ben Cartwright in a violent shootout, leaving the 3 sons to wander the West as cheap, disposable action heroes. Lorne Greene was on the verge of being fired, his career ruined before it even started, and a secret replacement actor was already being kept on standby. The only thing that kept the show on life support was a bizarre corporate mandate involving a piece of living room furniture. But how did a failing, violent pilot lead to a confrontation that changed television history forever? To understand that, we have to look at the exact moment Lorne Greene walked into the producer's office and committed what many thought was career suicide. It was during this high-stakes crisis that Lorne Greene made the dangerous decision to rebel. He flatly refused to play the character of Ben Cartwright as he was currently being written. He realized that if Ben remained a harsh, dictatorial tyrant, the audience would never connect with him, and the show would quickly fade into obscurity. In early 1960, Greene walked directly into the office of producer David Dort. In a legendary confrontation, Greene did not mince words. He slammed the latest batch of scripts onto Dort's desk and declared that the writing was not even fit to be used as toilet paper. He argued that the entire premise of the show was fundamentally flawed. If three grown men in their 20s and 30s were living under the roof of an angry, overbearing dictator, it made the sons look weak, foolish, and cowardly. Why would these strong, capable men stay on the Ponderosa if their father treated them like servants? Greene insisted that the family must be bound together by mutual respect, deep love and emotional intelligence, not fear and dominance. He demanded that Ben Cartwright be reshaped into a figure of warmth, wisdom, and gentle guidance, a father who listened to his sons, respected their individuality, and ruled the ranch through moral authority rather than raw power. This was a massive gamble. In the rigid television landscape of the late 1950s, network executives absolutely hated when actors demanded creative control, especially relatively unknown actors who had yet to prove their value to the bottom line. Dort could have easily fired Greene and replaced him with a more compliant actor willing to read the lines exactly as written. But Greene held his ground, utilizing the incredible, commanding vocal presence he had honed during his years as the voice of doom to convince Dort that a softer, more fatherly approach was the only way the show could survive. Dort eventually relented, realizing that Greene was absolutely right. Together, they began the painstaking process of rewriting the series' entire creative DNA. They stripped away the hostile, defensive isolationism of the Cartwright family and replaced it with a spirit of community, justice, and warmth. To achieve this transformation, Lorne Greene had to employ a series of highly specific acting and vocal techniques. He understood that a man with a voice as deep and powerful as his did not need to shout to command authority. If he raised his voice, he immediately sounded like an oppressor. Instead, Greene made the deliberate, conscious choice to speak to his television sons with a quiet, resonant softness. He used his deep baritone to project a sense of absolute security and calm. When Little Joe, played by Michael Landon, or Hoss, played by Dan Blocker, made mistakes, Greene's Ben Cartwright did not yell. He would lower his voice, lean in close, and speak with an intense, quiet earnestness that made the viewer feel as though they were being enveloped in a protective blanket of fatherly wisdom. This unique vocal control changed the entire pacing of the show. It allowed Bonanza to transition from a typical, fast-paced shootout western into a deliberate, dialogue-driven family drama where the most tense moments were resolved not with a gunfight, but with a quiet, emotional conversation around the dining room table at the Ponderosa. The impact of this creative pivot is vividly apparent when you contrast the pilot episode with the episodes that followed later in the first and second seasons. In A Rose for Lotta, the Cartwrights are tense, angry, and constantly on the defensive. They brandish their weapons at every turn, behaving like paranoid warlords protecting their territory. But as Lorne Greene's influence took hold, the atmosphere of the show transformed completely. In later episodes, we see a completely different Ben Cartwright. He is a man who welcomes strangers to the Ponderosa with open arms, who counsels his sons through heartbreak and ethical dilemmas, and who stands up for the weak and disenfranchised in Virginia City. The mistake of the pilot, the harsh, aggressive, and unlikable family dynamic, was systematically erased and replaced by a revolutionary portrayal of fatherhood that had never been seen on television before. Prior to Bonanza, television fathers were either bumbling, comedic figures who needed their wives to solve their problems, or distant, unyielding authority figures. Greene's Ben Cartwright bridged the gap, proving that a man could be incredibly strong, masculine, and authoritative while also being deeply emotional, loving and physically affectionate with his sons. This profound shift did not just save the show from cancellation, it turned Bonanza into a cultural juggernaut that dominated the ratings for over a decade, eventually becoming the #1 show in the United States. The syndication of the series has kept it on television screens for generations, a perfect example of the Lindy effect, where the longevity of a piece of media predicts its future survival. By standing up to the producers and refusing to accept a poorly written, hostile character, Lorne Greene took a massive personal risk that could have ended his Hollywood career in an instant. Instead, his stubborn refusal to play a bad character allowed him to create the ultimate archetype of the American father. The next time you watch an episode of Bonanza and feel that warm sense of comfort when Ben Cartwright speaks, remember how close we came to losing that voice forever. It was a journey that began in the dark radio stations of wartime Canada, weathered a storm of terrible early ratings and network cancellation threats, and was saved only by an actor who had the courage to look at a broken script and demand something better. If you want to understand just how fragile the creation of classic television truly was, you only have to look back at that very first pilot episode and see the angry, hostile father that Ben Cartwright was originally meant to be.